Welcome to the Ultimate Landscape CEO podcast. Our guest today is two guests. We have Brian Cuccaro and Brad Stephenson from Newcastle Lawn and Landscape. They are partners, but they didn't start out that way. Brian is the owner, the CEO, if you will, and the first owner of the business. And he hired Brad in and brought Brad up into co-manager and ultimately co-owner of the business, 50-50. This company is 28 years old. They did 10 million. They have 80 employees, one location, but looking at a second, which we talk about on the podcast. And what's interesting about their story really is this partnership and how they make it work, what their roles are, and also how one owner brought in a partner to the business, which I think many people think about here. Sometimes I have guests on this show that are larger companies, and sometimes I have guests that are smaller companies. This company kind of fits right in the middle here. I think it'll be a good company that many can relate to, whether you're smaller and growing or larger and having partners and thinking about how you manage with those partners, or thinking of bringing on a partner. For some of you who have found this podcast through the internet and don't perhaps know me from my newsletter and the work I do, you can go to my website, jeffreyscott.biz, and find a sign up to my newsletter where I email out every week free information to help you help the industry. You can find that on a button on the top of my website, or you scroll down to the bottom of the homepage. Sign up for my newsletter, and really there's a lot of value I'd like to give away, including this podcast, which is really my passion project. I have started this because I just love talking to these people. And that's why this podcast happens every 2-3 weeks, really, because I pick and choose good stories to tell you. And so you're really going to enjoy this story. Here we go. Brian, Brad, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Appreciate it.
Excellent. So let's jump right in. Introduce yourselves and share with the audience your current business, current mix, where you're at, and any other vital statistics.
Brian, we'll start with you since you're the president. You can roll here.
Sure. My name is Brian Cuccaro. Company is Newcastle Lawn and Landscape Incorporated. We are from Reading, Pennsylvania. We started the company in 1994. Brad, you can go next.
Yeah, so I'm Brad Stephenson, one of the owners here at Newcastle. I wasn't always one of the owners. I just recently became 50% owner about, 2 years ago. I was minority owner about 7 years ago, but I did start off just working in the field as a landscape foreman or hardscape foreman, and worked my way up into ownership, and with the help of a lot of people around me. So that's how I became owner.
You started off as a foreman?
Yeah, I was a foreman. I was hired from another company. I worked for another company for about 10 years. I was their operations manager, and I had a pretty cushy job. And I came over to Newcastle because I knew that they were going to be a growing company. They had a need that I could see, that I could fill. And I made the jump. I didn't make the jump the first year. It's the second year they came after me because they had to raise the salary a little bit, and made the jump. And it was the best move I ever made. I remember my mom saying, the grass isn't always greener on the other side, but I knew the opportunities I was going to have here, and they really came true. So it was a pretty exciting journey.
Interesting. So you're the vice president.
Yep.
And are you the face of the business, or the voice?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Cook's better looking than me. And we call him Cook. It's Brian Cuccaro, but we call him Cook. But I like to, so Jeffrey, one thing about me, I like to be out and about and just meet people, new people, get insight on different things. I love that sort of thing. I love meetings. And I do love being the face of Newcastle. It's pretty important to me. It's not my life. I have a wife and 2 kids, but it is pretty important to me. And, we always say that we have the Newcastle family, which, I know Brian and I hold that close to our hearts, and, making sure we're out and about is really, really important.
So let's get some things out of the way here. Your roles, and you both sort of touched on it, but I work with a lot of partnerships. I work with many either brother, sister, or non-related partners, or I mean, putting even husband, wife aside, actual, partnership run companies. And I don't know how it happened. It just developed that way for me. And not all of my clients like that, but a big enough chunk where it's very recognizable. So getting the roles right and having mutual accountability and separation of lanes is so critical. And it seems like you guys have really done that well. But as I said, what are your roles and how are your lanes divided?
I'll start off with this one. Kook, you can go then. But our roles, we've have kind of funny roles. I think they're funny anyway. They are divided, but man, we're linked together. So where I'm short, Brian's strong. So I'll go out and make some decisions that sometimes won't be the smartest decisions. And Brian's saying, hey, what about this? And what about that? So it's a good basically a partnership. And everybody says, 50-50 partners. You can't be 50-50 partners. Be 51. You got to have a decision maker. Our decision makers, our leadership team. Brian and I, we sit back a lot and let our people make a lot of the decisions. Now, even financial decisions. Everybody has budgets. Everybody knows what we're working within. So we've given them the freedom to kind of self-manage, and it's been very rewarding to see people grow and see people, increase their task ability. And then for Brian and I, just to sit back and watch this thing grow, it's been pretty cool, especially the last, 4 years or so. We've doubled our revenue since 2018, and it's been a steady growth. So my role, if we want to get back to the question, my role is more leadership training, making sure our people are given the chance to make a difference and to grow in the company. I think it goes back to my childhood and just being raised and stuff. I had a lot of things that I wasn't really given a chance, and listened to a lot of people that really didn't know what they were talking about and believed it. So I'm very in tune with that. So I know when I see that, and I'm constantly coaching our people to allow the next person up, who are you training, and really push that. And I think that out of everything, that's probably my most important role here at Newcastle. And I love it. I feel like I don't even come to work. So
you're the people manager and mentor, and your company is maintenance. And I mean, it's an equal division between mowing, enhancements, construction, plant, healthcare, trees, snow. But you brought the hardscape installation side to the business.
Yeah, when I first started, they were starting in hardscape, but it was a little.
If that's what you want to call it.
Yeah, it was a little concerning. Let me say, there's a couple of large projects that they were involved in. That when I got in here, I'm like, whoa, yeah, we got to make some changes here because this is not good. But yeah, the hardscape side of things that's what I loved. I mean, that's what I knew. Outdoor kitchens, patios, walls, that sort of thing. That's what I worked in, up through my career in landscaping. So when I started, it was Newcastle was pretty much just a maintenance company at that point. I think we were like 800 in revenue. I thought it was less, but I'll have to change that when I talk to people. But yeah, I mean, we grew all departments, and construction was a big one that we grew. But that's something that I hold again near and dear to my heart, is the construction side of things. The maintenance side of things, I didn't know a whole lot about, like the mowing. I really didn't know anything about mowing, to be honest with you. And that's where Brian and our other partner, Brian Wise at the time, that's how they started the company. And I don't want to go.
There's a third partner in this?
There was.
It's like a third brother you don't hear about. What happened?
He retired. He retired young. He wanted to spend some time with his family, and that's how I was able to get in at 50% owner. Was his retirement.
You bought him out.
Basically, yes. Yeah, I mean, we together. Yes, that's what happened.
And so, Brian, what is your role in the business?
So my role in the business is I spend a lot of time with our HOAs and our larger clients. I take a lot of pride in responding very quickly to concerns and questions from either the board members or the management companies. I mean, I have it to the point where, like, if I get an email, I'm on site like the same day, and I really take a lot of pride in doing that, and I enjoy doing that. And I know one thing I learned over the years, especially with management companies, we make their lives a lot easier by being so prompt. And by doing that, they recognize it. And then you have the management companies in our corner come renewal time, which helps. But I also build a relationship with the board members as well. I'd rather work directly with the board members because ultimately they're making the decisions on the renewals and additional work and things like that. So I really do look at the importance of responding quickly, whether it's a complaint, whether it's they want an estimate for additional work, whether a tree limb fell and they want it taken care of quickly. My goal is to get things taken care of literally the same day, if not within hours. And that does not, typically, we don't see that kind of service get repeated in our industry, in our area. Mm-hmm. So as a result, our renewal rate is extremely high from our HOAs and our commercial properties, because they don't forget those little things. And it's those little things they're really big things at the end of the day. So right. I love to be like, I just got an email this morning, actually, one of our properties had a problem with, apparently we hit a plant or something like that. So I stopped out and I took a look at it and I'm like, all right, this isn't even nothing we did, but I did a video and sent it to the property manager, and she's like, "You're already over there?" And I'm like, "Yeah, there's nothing, there's no concern here. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong area." But the point is, they notice that quick response, and they're not going to get that with other companies. At least that's how I feel. And even if it's a different industry, that kind of level of response, it's really important to them. So I take a lot of pride in doing that. So back to your original question, I spent a lot of my time doing that with all of our larger properties. They are typically our HOAs and our commercial properties are our year-round clients. Snow removal, full landscape maintenance. They're the ones who are going to be with us if there's another crash in the economy. They were the ones that helped us back in 07, 08 get through, and we certainly built a lot more of those type of clients over the years. And I want to keep that rolling because we rely on that recurring revenue. It's really, really important. So I spent a lot of my time doing that. And on the back end, I think as Brad, mentioned, I'm kind of behind the scenes kind of leader in our company. The guys look at me as just one of the guys, and I like that title. It's important to them. If we get, it's been a couple of years now, but I've jumped in the mix before and cut grass alongside the guys, and the guys still talk about that. Fortunately, we're in a position now that I don't have to do that. But I'll jump in there and work alongside them, and that kind of thing is really important to the guys. So
you also run the office, is that right?
Yeah, she's our office manager, but I am part of the weekly office meetings to help give them some direction, more on the technological side and kind of our systems and things like that. Brad jumps in the mix in those meetings as well, more as a motivational kind of thing and someone on the out.
So are you guys, do you all go to the same meetings, or do you divide and conquer?
So let me just clarify. I usually throw grenades, and not necessarily, so right now we're going to a lot of office meetings, and the reason why we're doing that is because we have a lot of systems and processes that have a lot of workarounds, and we're trying to simplify it. And in order to simplify it, we have to identify what the issues are. So both Brian and I are involved in the office meetings right now. Now I am backing out because I think I stirred the pot enough to really dig in because, I mean, we're looking to hit close to 10 million this year, and we're looking to hit, 20 million in 3 to 5 years. And so there's going to be tremendous growth. And we know that if our systems aren't right, we're going to be in trouble. So that's why we both jumped in there to help that. Plus, our office manager had a little bit of an illness that we had to step in and help run for a month or so, and kind of reestablish some things, in that area. So we're working on a lot of internal things right now to solidify moving forward.
What about, I guess when I was asking, I meant like all meetings. Are you both in the sales meetings? Are you both in production meetings, or do you divide and conquer?
We're pretty much both if we want to be. Like sales and production, it's not like we're not in every meeting. They have their meetings. They always want us to be there because I truly believe our people just want to kind of show off a little bit to us and, hey, look what we're doing. The leadership team meeting, myself and Brian we're in that every single week. That's on a Friday, same time, same place. We run the traction program, but we're in those meetings, and we're in those meetings as equals. We're not in there as CEOs, presidents, vice presidents. We're in there as an equal, and we have conversations and solve problems as a group. And that's why I say with our leadership team, I mean, they run a lot of what we do here. We pitch in here and there, but it's mostly them.
So who is on your leadership team? What other positions?
So we have our sales manager, we have our office manager, we have our operations manager, our enhancement supervisor, and another up and coming. He brought trees to us, but he's an up and coming culture leader. Andy Achenbach is his name, but he's in the leadership team meeting as well. So I think we have a total of 7 people in on that leadership.
Correct. I can add something on that, Jeffrey. Our leadership team, as Brad said, like it's an incredible team. I look at each of them as, I'm constantly learning from them. And, even though we're the owners, they bring so much to the table, each of them in some capacity. So I'm learning from those guys all the time. And that's one thing I'm definitely grateful for. Obviously, I don't have all the answers. Brad doesn't have all the answers, but collectively as a group, especially with them, it's really exciting to see them come up with ideas, and they're, like Brad said, they're making all the decisions, and we're just kind of hanging out and helping out where we can, but typically they're figuring things out.
And so why do you have an enhancement supervisor on the leadership team? Is this run as a separate division and he's a division leader, or what? So
he's a long-time employee. He's been here since, I believe, 2008. And we created this leadership team in 2018, which is our worst year ever. We lost $350,000 that year. It was a mess. H-2B program. We can get into it then, but we didn't get our guys. We created that in 2018. And what we wanted to do is bring in people with different personalities and different thought processes, especially different than myself and Brian. We had to have a different view on things. Because the worst thing you can have is a meeting with everybody that's like you. You don't get anything done, and there's no conflict, there's no arguments, healthy arguments, and there's nobody telling you, no, I have a different view on things. And that's why, I mean, Mark, we've been friends since we were 16, and he pushes my buttons. He tells me, hey, I don't think that's a good idea.
Mark's the enhancement manager?
Yep. Yeah, he's the enhancement supervisor.
But why is he on the leadership team meeting? Is it for historical reasons, or is he actually running in his own division?
So when we look at leadership team, we're not looking at individual divisions in that team meeting. We're looking at just leaders, like who is the leader of the company, who's looked up to. It could be, I mean, heck, we could change and have all enhancement people in there if we wanted to, because we don't, on the construction side, we don't have representation. But I think we've gotten so cohesive as a company, you don't have to have separate divisions in your leadership team meeting the way we're set up. Because then we have divisional meetings, we have production meetings as well, that everybody's kind of intertwined and has a reason and a why behind why they're there. So to answer your question, it doesn't matter where he's at or where they're at, it's who they are. And that's why we picked the people that we picked. It wasn't the position, it was the personality style, and just the mix of different opinions. And really, Mark's been in the industry since he was 15 years old. He's got a lot of experience. So that came to play as well, and he has a lot of wisdom behind him.
Well, let me ask you a question you may not want to answer.
That's all right.
With a live mic here, but so where do you see him going in your company? As you go to 20 million, your leadership team may change.
Yeah.
And of course, by then your current leaders may grow into other positions as well. Where do you see Mark going?
Well, Mark just had his one-to-one today, actually. He wants to grow in the company, whether it be general manager or something like that, overseeing production as a whole. But, I'm a very honest person. And I told him, I said, Mark, in order to do that, you got to work on your emotional intelligence. You got to learn how to speak to people, like they're not kids, because sometimes he'll do that. And I can say that to him and he won't mind that that's on here, I'm sure. But he needs to work on it, and he knows. And so we went over, what are you doing to work on that? What can we do to help you? Because then if you do move into that spot of overseeing all of production, you have people looking up to you and not, wanting you to fail. So that was our one-to-one meeting today. And that's really the spot he wants to grow into. And we're kind of working him that way at this point.
Yeah, it's been on his radar now for a while. All of our radars to come up with a next step for Mark.
Well, that explains why he's on your leadership team then.
Yeah, I should have just answered it that way. I told you, rabbit holes, man. I go down them.
How long is your leadership team meeting? Is it like 3 hours?
10 hours. No, just kidding.
No, and that's why we have Dan, our operations manager, in there, because he'll cut my tangents short. They're hour and 45 minutes is what we have them set at. And we rarely go over. I mean, we're pretty on topic.
So let me ask Brian, did you recruit Brad to the company?
I did. I was a big part of it. We had a consultant at that time as well. So he was a big part of helping us recruit Brad. We also had one of our employees at the time, he's actually still with us now, was pretty close with Brad and knew Brad well. So he mentioned something to us. And I knew who Brad was from way back in the day in, I think, high school. He was a little younger than me, but we knew who Brad was and we knew he was in the industry. So it was kind of a collective effort, all of us to get Brad to come over with us. But our consultant at the time was a big help.
So you were an $800,000 company, maintenance company.
Yes.
And you were 50-50 with another partner back then?
Yes. Correct. Yep.
Did you know back then that you'd be offering Brad ownership?
No, not at that time. No.
I did.
Yeah, you probably did. Yeah. Which is awesome. That's the kind of outlook you want to have.
Yeah. Nobody told me. I just knew it was going to happen.
No, I understand. So So Brian, your maintenance company, and you said, hey, we want to do installs as well. Let's get someone to lead that division or bring that expertise.
Correct. Yep, exactly. I knew where he was before. That was primarily what they did. I don't even know if they were too much into maintenance at all, like we were. But I knew the hardscaping, the water features, that kind of thing was really big with that company. And Brad ran the show over there. So, we just kind of reached out to him, and it took a little bit, but eventually Brad came over, to us and certainly changed things for the better.
And so Brad, did you took a step down and started as a foreman?
Yeah. And I've never worked so hard in my life. So I started drinking protein shakes to at least build my muscles up. But yes, I went from a pretty cushy, go around, check on crews to I'm in the field installing hardscapes.
Yeah. I think that's the right way to do it, by the way. I always advise, when possible, if you're bringing someone over, can you start them down a level so they can understand how everything works,
Absolutely.
build respect, see the systems, and then jump back up?
Yeah, and we do that with new salespeople now. We put them in the field for a month or so in different departments, just so they have that camaraderie, but then also understand like how we do things and why we do things. And it's been pretty successful. We've brought in a salesperson that used to sell cars, and it's 2 years now, and he's almost at 2 million in sales in landscape. He's never done it before.
He still thanks us, Jeffrey, for allowing him to go in the field with the crews and learn what we do and how we do it. To this day, he still says, like, that was so huge for me to just kind of see the crews and the kind of work that we do and this and that. It really helped him sell work and understand everything from a larger perspective.
Yeah, that's great.
Even on the management side, like we haven't ever hired a manager to be a manager, and we've grown everybody up through the ranks. Our operations manager was a construction laborer. We've grown everybody. Mark he was the enhancement supervisor. He was my right-hand man. It's our designer. One of our designers used to be my right-hand man at my other company. But we've grown people up through the ranks. We've never just straight up hired somebody and said, you're going to be a manager, because I don't think that's the right way to go.
Did you bring a lot of people with you when you came over?
Yeah. So over time, eventually people started coming over towards me. The first person I brought over was our sales manager, who's on the leadership team. I worked with her at my old company. She was a garden center manager, and I really liked her. She had a really good work ethic, good person. And I Facebook stalked her for like 3 months and finally found her. And I found her sister too, who was she was basically my laborer on the construction when I was doing construction at the other company. I found both of them. I told Trisha, I said, hey, we have an open design position. I'd love for you to take it. So she took that. And then her sister, Stacy, who's our sales manager now, I told her, I said, we're going to hire you. I don't know exactly what you're going to do right now, but we're going to have you do something. And originally she was going to be my assistant. And that just, every time I hire an assistant, we always put them somewhere else. But, she flourished. She was a substitute teacher, only wanted to work 15 hours a week. And now she's working like 50 hours a week. And she's managing a sales department of like six or seven people. And plus me, she helps manage me, and then's on our leadership team. And that's all from just hiring her because she was a good person.
Excellent. Oh, what a great story. How long did it take you to recognize that value in her?
First week.
One thing, she's really smart. So now she's like, we use Service Autopilot. That's our operating software. Hopefully I can say that, but she's like our expert on that. So she's doing automations. Like, she's just really, really smart. But I worked with her for 10 years. So I knew what she was about before. I ran the landscape end of things. She ran the garden center, but we had a lot of interaction. So I knew what we're getting. And then also with her sister, I knew what we were getting as well. So it didn't take too long. I had to coax her a little bit to work some more hours and to take on more responsibility.
And so at 10 million, I'm just segueing here. Do you have a controller in the business?
Well, no. And we've been looking at that, a CFO or a controller. I guess the problem that I have, maybe this is a personal problem, we're probably going to have to get one at some point. I don't like being told what to do. So I do think at some point we're going to have to. Now
Wait. Why would a controller tell you what to do?
Well, tell me I can't get something or do something. We'll just say it's a personal battle I have in my head that I will get over. But we work closely with our financial people. We have a company comes in monthly, helps us with a lot. Hey, we're going in the right direction, making sure we're not missing anything. They do a lot of stuff with us now. So it's kind of like a CFO for hire is what we have right now. But going to 20 million, we're going to have to we're going to have to get a CFO or a controller at some point.
Yeah, we've been discussing that for over a year now, that controller position. So it's a matter of time.
We actually interviewed for a couple people as well.
What do you think else you'll need to change? What else have you been discussing in order to go from 10 to 20?
Well, we have to buy another facility. So we started marketing in another location. Our goal was just to get 800 new Lawn App customers. We've got 425 new customers. We got 32 in this new area that we've marketed to. But we're going to have to move, or at least satellite, because right now our property we thought we would never grow out of, we're filled to the gills. I mean, there's no more room to add. We might be able to add one more crew, but it's just parking's a little bit of a mess. So we know we have to satellite. It's part of our VTO that we do. The Vision Traction Organizer kind of just lays out a plan for the next 3 to 5 years. And so we're in the process right now. I am working with a realtor in the area. We're looking to satellite to, then we're also looking for businesses that might be selling in that area as well.
So I'm going to come back to my question. So what other changes to go from 10 to 20? So one is space, location, a branch. That's what I'm hearing.
Yep.
What else are you guys contemplating?
I have one, Brad. I know to answer that. The recruiting and the retention, I know something we implemented last year or so is we call it a bench warmer list, where we interview people, even if positions aren't available, to be proactive on that. And we have, I think it's like a dozen applicants right now that went through our process. We want to hire them. They're on our list to hire. At the moment, we don't have positions for them. But
how does that work, Brian? Tell me, how do you make first contact, so to speak? And how does that, take me through it?
Sure. So part of the whole thing is the automations Brad had mentioned. We had that built on the back end. So that's part of the process on recruiting and finding people. It basically, what it does behind the scenes, it kind of just flags us through the process. It reaches out to them as well. And it'll say, okay,
wait, hold on. Let's dumb this down a little bit.
Okay.
Flags them where? Reaches out to them where? Like, how do you make first contact?
So when, like, for example, we have one of our employees has a brother who is interested. So we tell them to fill out an application.
Let's skip that one.
Okay.
So, or are you telling me everybody on this list you've already known somehow?
Oh, no. I mean, some of them we have, typically it's people reaching out to us, and then we put them into that process.
Got it.
And that process is what kind of steers the ship to make sure they don't slip through the cracks. It's a phone interview involved, then there's an in-person interview if it gets that far in the process.
You built this on service autopilot.
We did.
You didn't need to, but you did. You're not the only one. So that's why I'm sort of guessing that's what you did. I have at least one other client who's done that. But that's how many of the applicant tracking softwares now are designed and built.
Yep.
You guys were maybe a little bit ahead of your time, and so you just built it into the software.
We like to reinvent the wheel sometimes.
Well, we did bring in an automations guru as well, who knows the system. So he helped us build a lot of it. But yeah, the great thing about it is that it just kind of helps us so people don't slip through the cracks. And in the past we didn't track it well.
Yeah.
We'd be like, oh, well, this guy came in, and
That's why you need an applicant tracking software. But hey,
yes.
I don't have a whatever it is.
Skin
not in that game, but but it's something you should think about. But back to your list. All right, so you've interviewed 10 people for 10 different positions, and you've told them what?
Well, they're not necessarily 10 different positions, but they're just people who we felt they fit in the Newcastle, model.
Yeah.
Really good people. At the end of the day, we're like, oh yes, we absolutely, we want to hire this person. And then we tag them as such. And then they go in.
What do you tell them? Hey, we love you, but not today.
Well, I haven't done a lot of the interviews. Brad, what do we tell them?
So we tell them, like, listen, there's no spots open right now. You know, a lot of times in the wintertime, we'll need people to help in the wintertime. Are you all right shoveling snow? That's another pre-qualifier. They'll weed some people out. And then come spring, we're looking to grow. You know, we will be in contact with you in the spring to fill up some open spots.
Okay.
And to go back to a question that you asked, as far as what do we need to change to get to 20 million, I think our thought process, you know, reinventing the wheel, you know, I think it's evident now that, you know, some things we overcomplicate and there's a simpler way out there. But I know, just talking to other companies and stuff, that's a common thing. Like, you overcomplicate so many things when it's right in front of you that you could use a couple different things and move on to your next more important step. And I think that's something we have to look at. And then also, if we're satelliting, who's moving over there? You know, what's the business plan for that satellite office? If we don't buy another company, there's no employees. Well, you know, I don't know if anybody's going to want to drive an hour away. So we're starting to work through that process right now. And because we're going to have to get some leadership over there. We don't want culture to suffer. We are going to visit a company late October in Chicago that they're $55 million company, I believe, that has 5 satellite locations that we're just, you know, looking to see how they did it and what they did, and making sure we don't miss something.
So you could do that, or you could hire people from there and have them travel to you for 3 months.
Yeah.
And then send them back.
Do I have to send you a check?
Not yet. I don't like small checks, so that
yeah, I got you.
Nothing on that one.
That's a freebie.
Yeah. All right. So what else do you think you have to change and plan to get to 20 million? Actually, before you go there, so you've got this list. I think, Brian, we were emailing or texting on LinkedIn, right, about being a destination company. I think it was Brian. Now I'm going to start mixing you two up, Brad.
It was probably me. That was me on LinkedIn. I don't know if Brian goes on LinkedIn much.
All right, so that was
Not
Brad.
too much. But.
And you were saying we are a destination company. So prove it to me. That means you're fully staffed and people are knocking on your door wanting to work for you. Is that the case? Tell me where you're at with that.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to brag, but we haven't had any turnover. Like the last 3 years, we have no turnover. Well, I think we lost one person. So like the word's out now. We've done a lot of stuff in the community and people talk. And we were talking about, you know, family members and stuff. And if we knew people, the majority of the people that we have here are family members, friends of good people. Like the majority of the people that work here are referrals from existing employees. Yeah. And that's huge because you're getting through a lot of that, you know, feeling them out process, because nobody's gonna recommend somebody that's not going to be a good fit. And that's really, I have to say, that's how we built our workforce. There might be one person that we hired off the street that I can remember right now that somebody didn't know. So, you know, I think it's important to know that. And, you know, we have people that are here, and Brian was just talking about one of our salespeople. We've changed his life, and we change people's lives. It's not just a job. And I think once you get here, you understand the care and what goes into the personal development of a person and not just a worker. Like, and everybody wants to say family atmosphere. Well, there's some dysfunctional families out there. But it is, and there's a lot of care. And I think that's from the top down, and we just want to make sure that continues. So that's one important thing.
That's one of your values, is it not?
Yes.
Cares. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Cares, determined to improve, and good attitude. Those are our 3 core values. It's so simple. I mean, that's it.
Wait, let me guess. CIA.
Yes, it is. Hey, we had to remember it somehow. That was Stacy, the smart one. She was the one that came up with that.
So so you're telling us that these values is what's allowed for this employee retention. How else does it show through?
I think it shows through in the community too, and what people are doing just on their own and how they're taking care of our clients. Every week we get a list that goes out of just compliments that come in from existing clients that are working with our people. And our people really care. And I think, it goes into the community and how now people are talking. Our marketing budget is not that much. We have a lot of repeat customers and word of mouth. And I think that just goes into how our people are. And we're rating people off of our core values. So if somebody's not showing up the way we'd like them to, we bring them in and we grade them off of the core values and say, hey, you got 30 days to change. We expect to change and we need you to change. It's not that hard to follow these values. And that's helped a lot as well.
Yeah. Okay. I like that you have 3. I mean,
I see 7, 9.
I'm okay with 5 and 6. And, there's always a good argument, but at some point you have too many.
Yeah.
But when you can boil it down to 3 and then really build off that, I think it can be really strong.
Yeah, and that's how we're voting for our employee of the month too. So we have a trophy. It's like a little Stanley Cup that they get their name engraved in it. And at our monthly meetings, we, call out the person that was employee of the month and why. And all 3 values have to be explained, what they showed to that supervisor or whoever, that, why did they get voted in?
Do they get like a secret CIA ring?
They get they're getting maybe I shouldn't say this, but they're going to get a golden shovel to take home.
Nice.
It's a trowel, but it's a shovel.
Golden trowel.
Yeah.
And so, you're fully staffed. You're proactively interviewing, and that's awesome, right? That's really good. Like I said, I work with a lot of partners, and what I've seen is either in some triplet partnerships as well, and either 1 + 1 = 50%. In other words, they kind of cancel each other out in a bad way, or 1 + 1 = 3, 4, 5, where they really get synergy. Actually, you know what? I said the math wrong. Either 1 + 1 = 1.5, so it's not even 2, or the 1 + 1 = 3 and more because there's synergy. And so, how do you guys rate yourselves?
I wish our employees could rate us, Brian.
I know that's what should happen. No, but I think
Good.
with Brad and I think we are very productive in terms of like we don't cripple each other. Like it's productive. When there's an issue, we can talk about it without it getting personal or anything like that. And Brad's definitely the sunshine and rainbows optimistic guy, which is awesome. We need that. I need that. but there are times when, certain things might not be reasonable. I'm more the realist at times. So, but it's always a good positive thing between us, if that answers your question. I don't think when Brad and I are trying to figure something out in front of our team, I don't think it's like, oh boy, here we go, that kind of thing. It's really constructive. That's the word I'm looking for. It's constructive, and we always figure things out, typically, and we hand it over to our leadership team as well, and collectively we figure it out.
So neither of you have sales goals. Do either of you make sales?
I did have a sale. I have a sales goal. I'm not hitting it this year, but I've sold in the past. That's how I was able to grow pretty quick in the company, is sales.
But I mean, now you're not selling.
No, Brian's, he does a lot of HOA.
Yeah, it's not a good use of Brad's time. I've been telling Brad for years now, you're so awesome with our people. Like that is your baby, and it shows. Like that's what you need to be doing. Like we'll bring some other people in to help sell. But for me personally, yes, I sell like the HOA, like the renewals and the upsells and the snow contracts. And
Got it.
We recently changed snow contracts to work in some fixed snow contracts, which that's a first for us. We implemented that seasonal. Yep. We did that 2 years ago, and that's been awesome for us. So we have some guaranteed income over the winter. We never thought we could do it in our area for some reason. We're just outside Philly, but as long as you figure it out based off of seasonal averages, it can be done, and it's been great for us. So
back to 20 million. What else have you discussed that you're going to need to implement or change or stop doing?
I think staying up on technology. We've always been ahead of the game on that, I think, compared to others, but not dropping the ball on that. Whether it's, the mowers, the whole, robotic mowers, we've been dabbling in that this year. The different softwares. I mean, there's so many things coming out, especially in the last 5 years. Checking everything out and seeing what's out there, seeing how it can help us, not being afraid of going down that road. I know historically in our industry, it hasn't been embraced very much in terms of technology, but I think it's something we do really well, and just not being afraid of it and continue to do that. I think that definitely needs to be something that we can't drop the ball on in order to get to that next level.
Yeah.
I think leadership training too, Jeffrey. I think that's key. I mean, we have a local chamber that does a lot of leadership training, for supervisors that we have a bunch of people in, but it's the growth of our people now to become those supervisors that might get moved. It's pretty important to both of us, but it's something that I'm keying in on, because if you don't have people trained, you could fall on your butt. And we had some struggles this year because we have a lot of young people in different spots that are leadership positions, and they struggled some. And I struggled when I was in the field when I was young. I had patios fail, walls fall over, you name it. But I learned from it. We're trying to get ahead of the curve on some of that stuff and try to get our guys and girls trained up, to become the next level and keep hiring people in. But as far as the technology, I'm on top of that too with you, Kook. I mean, we, even with like the mulch mates and different things that we I don't know if I can say that either, but I don't care.
He edited it out.
Different things that we, get it easier for our people, instead of a 3-man crew, maybe have a 2-man crew, because we have, different pieces of equipment. We're looking at some different equipment for snow. A lot of times we'll be a little short on the walk side. Like, let's get more equipment so it's easier on the guys and we don't have to rely on so many people. And I think the more equipment, the more that sort of thing too on the technology side that we're able to get to make it easier, I think is really, really important and really stay ahead of the curve.
Like specialty equipment.
Yeah.
We're going to run out of time here. Let me ask you some partnership questions. Again, if you don't want to answer them, just say pass, but it's kind of speed. This is a lightning round.
Okay.
Nice.
You guys vacation together?
No. Not yet.
Okay, that's fine. Do you and your spouses go out to dinner together?
We have.
So, okay. Do you guys pay each other the same amount?
Yes.
Yes.
Have you guys discussed exit planning together? Do you guys have similar visions for how long you want to be in the business and how you want to exit?
It's funny. We're just talking about that.
We were.
We're in the process of exit planning now.
Okay. Do you have a list of decisions where you have to be consensus, or is it all fuzzy logic?
I think it's fuzzy logic. We don't have a list. Yeah. Fuzzy logic.
Will one of you want to get out of the business operationally before another?
We thought so, but I don't know.
We're both really enjoying what we're doing now and seeing everybody, progress in the company. So it's been enjoyable.
That being said, Jeffrey, we know if we both try to exit at the same time, it's not going to be beneficial for the company. Right. So that is part of our planning process, that we can't have that happen. So okay. One way or another, we have to figure that one out.
A few more questions here. What kind of hire, to what level can one of you make without involving the other person? Or without involving the other person?
A hire, you said?
Yeah.
Well, we don't hire.
Okay. Neither of you guys do any of the hiring?
Nope.
Correct.
What level of firing can an employee do without involving you?
Same thing.
Yeah. Supervisors have freedom. They have freedom to fire.
So are you brought in on any level hires or fires?
Fires, sometimes I'm brought in if they think that there's a chance and maybe I can speak something into them to try to get them to change. But usually they're just, if they're firing somebody that's been here for a really long time, they'll come and tell us and the reason why. But I mean, we're trusting their judgment. They work with them every day. We don't.
Yeah. Do you do any kind of incentive plan that you want to share?
So we are working on an incentive plan right now, but we are working on it, and we've been working on it for a really long time. So we need to do better. But Santos has one that I think is going to work. It's a grading system that we're hopefully implementing this year. But it's
I don't know why.
Let me have a, I'm going to have a conversation with you when we get off mic here.
Sweet.
Okay.
But what's your favorite books that you guys have both read recently?
Leadership and Self-Deception is one of my favorite. I have all of our supervisors read that.
What about you, Brian?
Mine this year was Trust and Inspire. That was listen to that over my vacation.
Okay. What was the worst book you've read in the last 12 months?
Worst book. Well, I don't read. I listen to Audible. So my wife will kill me if I say I actually read. But it's just the same thing. I'm a listener. Worst book, man. I haven't had any bad ones here the last 12 months.
All right, Brian.
The one I listened to that I don't know what it was. It got so many rave reviews. I'm sure it was good to great. They were just I was zoned out on that so many times for some reason. I would try to really focus and get back in on it, but then I would kind of veer off. I don't know.
It's an older book and it is a bit generic for sure.
Yeah, that's what it was. But
I can tell you the one I almost drove off a bridge on was Rich Dad Poor Dad. That one I was like, man, I listened to it like 3 or 4 years ago. I'm like, I am not doing any of this. I feel like a piece. I'm just not a good person. But
you're building a business. It's the same thing.
I know it is, but I didn't like. I just didn't like. It was 10 hours straight. I was driving to Kentucky. I listened to the entire book the way there. It was too much at one shot.
All right. So. Final questions here for both you guys. Give us, and I want to hear. Let's hear from Brian first because Brad will probably take over if I don't.
Okay.
Give us a prediction you have for the industry itself. One prediction.
I think we're going to see more, like I mentioned earlier, more of the different avenues of technology. I think we're going to see in terms of. I know this is such a. It's talked about all the time, but the robotic mower thing. You drive down the street, you still don't really see them. I think 5 years from now, you're going to see them, especially in the subdivisions, all over the place. So I think, wrapping our brain around that, coming up with a business model of how we can work that into our company, which is something we've been talking about. I think that, you're going to see more of that in the next 5 years. And again, more of the different, like Brad was saying, with the machinery and the specialty pieces of equipment. You're going to see more of that kind of thing just to help with labor. I think that's going to be something we're going to be seeing quite often as years go by.
Okay, thank you, Brad.
Sure.
I don't want to be doom and gloom, but if you don't know your numbers, you're not going to be in business. It's as simple as that. I mean, heck, we got lucky. We got lucky up to 2016, Brian, without a budget, without really knowing our numbers, thinking accounts were great and they weren't. We lied to ourselves. So. The way things are turning, the way prices are increasing right now, if you don't know your numbers, unfortunately, you're not going to be in business. And fortunately for us, hopefully we can acquire and give some people some jobs, even owners of companies. But if you don't know your numbers, like I read so much stuff and I see so many things and I know that people really don't know their numbers because it's all over the place, but you need to truly know your numbers. What are you shooting for? Get a budget together. It's really, really important.
That's really one of the key things that we focus on in the Leaders Edge peer group that I run, not only setting people up to not only set up a budget, but have a rolling budget. But then we do quite a bit of benchmarking so you can A, know your numbers, and then B, see how you're doing, where you're doing better, where you're doing worse, where you leaving money on the table, where's your model different, where
Mhm.
you're different, but you can't necessarily change it or don't want to. So I think you have to know your numbers, not just sort of micro, but also macro in terms of benchmarking and really having a good handle on where you stand.
Yeah, and I
For
would
sure.
definitely agree with that, Jeffrey. I think benchmarking us compared to the industry and then compared to the area. In our area, we are the most expensive company in our area.
How do you know that? Because I hear this all the time, by the way. I'm the most expensive. I'm like, show me the contracts from your 3 top competitors, and then I will believe you.
Yeah, well, HOAs sometimes they give us their contracts, and we are the most expensive.
All right.
And I've been told. Yeah, I mean, this I should say on the maintenance side, we are the most expensive. Our pay rates are higher, and they're higher for a reason. We want to make sure we have the best people here.
But, when people say that to me, I'll be like, well, do you want to be the cheapest? Well, no. Well, do you want to be middle of the road where you're leaving money on the table? Well, no. You got to embrace when people tell you that and live up to it.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't lower our prices when people say we're the most expensive. We're like, yeah, that's right, and we do it for a reason because we have the best people. We put out the best product, and nothing against people in our area, but our companies of our size, which there's not a whole lot, they don't have the same quality, and customer service, and getting back to people and actually having an office staff. I mean, we have, with salespeople and everything, we have like 15 inside people that are taking care, plus, Brian and I.
With sales. Yeah. That's good for people to hear. I was just speaking with a client. Hope you're not listening, or maybe I hope you are. And he's bigger than half your size, and he has 1 1/8 office person.
Oh gosh.
Oh boy.
Now, it's a different business. He's got more project managers, maybe than you have. But I told him, it's like dieting. You are definitely eating into muscle here. This is not just fat you have burned away from your organization. So you can that's what I went back to when I mentioned benchmarking. You have to be careful not to compare and believe the benchmark. Somebody may have less overhead. It doesn't mean that they're making more money or they can scale or they've got employee retention, all that. So that's where I find benchmarking, at least in the peer groups I run, to be really effective, because the number, but then the story behind the number, and you can make much better judgments and decisions on what you're going to grab and take back to your own company and what changes, you get motivated to make from it.
Absolutely.
So here's a question for you, Jeffrey. I'm going to put you on the spot. So, with your peer groups and stuff, are you doing like business reviews where people are opening up their books and you guys are going through the numbers and you're nitpicking like, hey, what your overhead's a little high here? Why is that? Do you guys do that sort of thing?
Well, we definitely do. And then when we get to a certain, and you can always do that because we have rolling, everybody puts their budget into the same format. And then we do year-end reviews as well. But at some point, you have so much time together, right? And so where do you spend your time? And then at some point, you've got to get more strategic.
Yep.
So generally, as my companies grow, there's always a financial review, but in terms of the whole year, you're going to spend less time on that kind of nitpicking, and then you're going to nitpick at a higher level.
Future. Yep.
So
makes sense.
Yeah. Hey, this has been a lot of fun, Brad. I'm glad we reached out. Some people I interview, I've known them for years, and you guys, I just met.
All right.
So
I appreciate being on the show or on the podcast.
Absolute pleasure.
All right. Thank you, guys.